Can you tell us who you are and when and where you were born?
I'm Jim Moore. I was born in London, Ontario, and lived in Belmont all my life.
And what county were you a junior farmer member of?
Elgin County.
In which clubs?
East Elgin first in Aylmer, and then Belmont, here in Belmont.
Do you remember what years you were a junior farmer?
From about 1959 to 69, roughly.
How did you first get involved in junior farmers?
That was a progression from 4-H. One of our 4-H leaders was a junior farmer. He talked to me about it. And then they were having a public speaking competition and they thought I should enter it, so just on the local level in the club. And so that's how I got to go. First night there I gave a speech.
Do you remember what your first event was?
Would be this public speaking competition and a meeting. Okay. But after that, I'm not sure what it would be.
So how did you start getting involved in the club's activities? Did it take a little prodding for you, or did you just jump right in?
It took prodding to get me there. Once I got there, I was rather hooked on it. And so it got involved. And the competition was actually where Central Elgin met, so it was a county competition that first night. And I knew some of the people there, so it just went from there.
What sort of activities did you do as a junior farmer? What sort of local activities did you do as a junior farmer?
Participated in the meetings. We had a food booth at the Aylmer Fair. That was our moneymaker in East Elgin. I was never in sports much, but I did the public speaking thing and was president down there in Aylmer and treasurer, and then worked up into the county and was president and treasurer there too.
And that was 1965.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What sort of things did the county junior farmers do compared to the local level in Elgin County?
We had a banquet. We did exchange trips with other counties. The two I remember are Victoria and Grey. Then I was fortunate to get some trips, leadership camp and effective speaking, and that we went through the county to get to those places. So that was the main activities.
What do you remember about your presidency in 1965 with the county?
Actually, since I was away for most of the summer on the UK trip, I really didn't do my part as the president. We had co-presidents, so Charlotte Davis, she was my co-president of Junior Institute. So she actually carried most of the load because I was away. But
what was the difference between junior farmers and junior institute clubs?
the girls, I guess, did homemaking things. Asking my wife.
Well, they didn't have it by the time I was down here.
Oh, okay. But I think they did homemaking programs probably.
Topic is of interest.
Whereas the boys was more agriculture, but then we got to be co-eds, so, because in East Elgin we didn't have a junior institute, Central Elgin did. So we were a co-ed thing, and Belmont was also co-ed.
Before you went to the United Kingdom, you went to leadership camp.
Yes.
How did that happen? How did that occur?
Two people, one girl, one guy, could go from Elgin County to and I think that was the same throughout the province. For our size anyway, I think Middlesex had 4. So that's where we got nominated in the county level, and then we got to go if we were selected to go. And part of that selection was through the Department of Agriculture office. The assistant ag rep, he was quite involved with the junior farmer part of it, and 4-H. So, and it's also where I met my wife, at that camp.
Where was the camp?
Really, at the YMCA camp, Geneva Park.
And how did you get there? Was there a bus or would you just drive?
Took the train to Toronto from London, and then a bus from Toronto up to Aurelia.
With a whole lot of other junior farmers? Or was it a general coach bus or was there just a junior farmer bus?
No, it was just a... Oh, on that bus, yeah, that was all camp people. We all assembled in Toronto at the train station, and that went by bus.
Did it cost you any money?
No.
How long was it?
A week. Yeah, a whole week.
And what sort of... How were you greeted when you got up there?
Warmly. We knew a few people before we got there, so that made it easy. But they had a lot of games, introductory games, so we got to know the other people fairly quickly.
What was the format used to for the leadership camp world that you stepped into?
Oh, it wouldn't be politically correct now. It was Indian tribes, Hurons and Iroquois and all the rest. And they were divided up into, I think, how many tribes? 5 tribes. And then the leaders, they were the big feet. So we did things together, and we could take several different courses, if you wished. And one of them, interesting enough, was on love and marriage. Junior Farmers was a matchmaking outfit, it seemed at that time. And so a minister, E.A. Chester, led that, and he was really quite interesting. I think most of the kids took that. And then there were other swimming and parliamentary procedure and singing and choir and many different things you could be involved in, and you could select those. You didn't have to take them all. And we organized a banquet to have, and they had a tea party, and I'm being prompted.
Church service.
Oh, church service, yeah. That was something the junior farmers did then. Counties had church services, and I got to go to other counties after I won the public speaking to participate in their church services. Milton and Caledonia and Embro, up near Sarnia.
So you were saying you met your wife at leadership camp. How did that occur? How did that moment occur?
How did that moment occur? Well, I remember one evening I met this really nice girl, and she actually was hanging around with my roommate. So I had a little competition, but I didn't ask her out at camp. It was a week or so later. I met her in London and through a junior farmer square dance thing, competition, and that's where I asked her out.
And it's been good ever since?
Most days.
How did leadership camp end?
How did it end? I think we just, there was a closing.
There was a social afternoon with the leaders.
That's right, yeah.
I can't remember just exactly how long or what we did.
Yeah, it was a social afternoon was sort of a formal thing
Where we were
to
dressed
wind
up.
down. But we didn't leave that until the next morning from the camp.
You all went back in the same bus?
Yes, back to Toronto and catch your trains to your various homes.
So the bus, the trains, all that, who paid for all that? It didn't
I
come from
think
you.
we paid for our own train ticket, but the bus was supplied. And all expenses at camp were supplied.
Now after leadership camp, you had a chance to apply for an exchange. How did that happen? How did you find out about the exchange and how did you apply for it? Or were you nominated?
Nominated in the county again. And the ag office seemed to have a fair bit of involvement in that part of it too. Because I remember the ag rep interviewed me, although he knew me before, and the assistant ag rep. But that was nominated from the junior farmers by the county executive. I don't think it ever went out to the local clubs to be nominated.
And was there something else you had to do at the provincial level to beat everyone else that was applying?
Interviews. In Guelph, at the Guelph conference. There were 3 different people. Ethel Chapman, who was known by many junior farmers at that time, Helen McKercher, and there was a man. There was 3 of them interviewed us at University of Guelph, and then we found out the next night if we won. There was 23 applied. I remember that from across the province.
And who did you all go with on the trip?
Barton McLean from Lennox and Addington, or Napanee. Barbara McCrae from Sarnia, representing Lambton, and Pat Knox, who was from Durham County.
And you hadn't met one another before, had you? You just kind of were all lumped together for the trip?
Yeah, but after we got there, we did go our separate ways. Some of the time, we were billed at different homes in Ireland, Scotland, and England. And Barb McCrae got to Wales to stay. I got there to visit. And then we had George Gear, he was the ag rep from Bruce County, from Walkerton. He was our chaperone, and then his wife and sister joined us later on. And so we were at all the royal shows together. And we were in London to go to Buckingham Palace together. But the rest of the time we were separated. Different counties and different families.
How long was the trip?
3 months. So,
and did you have to save up for it, or was it funded by someone else?
Again, it was funded. I think I spent under $400 for the whole 3 months. And most of that was things I brought home. Sweaters and gifts. And so it was a pretty generous program, really. We flew over on Air Canada, and we came home on the Empress of England steamship. I'm sorry, Empress of Canada, the new ship. Yeah, I'm sorry, it was the Empress of Canada.
Provincially, what competitions did you partake in? Did you have an opportunity to compete at?
Public speaking, and that was the only thing provincially. And of course the trip to UK. But
so what was the process in working your way up to the provincial level in public speaking?
Competed in your local club, and then your county, and then if you won your county you got to go to Toronto, to the Toronto conference, which was held in January, I believe. And there were 2 conferences. Toronto, it was more the competition conference, and then there was the Guelph conference in March, and it was educational, social. But the debating went on there, not in Toronto, but the rest of them were in Toronto.
And did you have the same speech the whole time, or did you have to have a new speech every competition?
You could use your prepared one, but there was always an impromptu, which you didn't know what it was until you drew your little piece of paper to tell you what the topic was. And I think in Toronto you had 10 minutes to prepare 5, something like that.
So you had to do 2 speeches?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And how did they judge you? What were the requirements to judge you for speaking?
Content was one of the major things. I guess proper English and presentation. I don't know what they we're looking for really, but that would be the main things anyway. Or before the public speaking, before I won it, there was an Albion Hills program which was new to junior farmers, and Nelson Hahn from Kempville College taught it, and we went to a conservation area in Albion Hills, and we had, I think, about 5 days of public speaking, teaching and practice. So I think that was a major help in winning the competition. It was in between the 1964 and 65.
Tell me about Nelson Hahn. I've heard rumors about him.
Oh, he was a very enthusiastic man, energetic. I found him to be quite kind. I'm not sure everybody did, but I think everybody liked him. But he really drilled you on public speaking and exercises, voice exercises more than anything. And we learned parliamentary procedure, which really wasn't part of public speaking, but kind of tied into, if you're going to be at public speaking, you should know what to do. And after camp, he wrote newsletters for a whole year. Just tell us what everybody was doing, and he actually reminded me that in one of them, I found that last night, that I had spoken at the golf conference church service, and I'd forgotten that, but that in itself was quite an honor, and he was very supportive of young people.
How much did membership cost?
Oh, I think about $2, wasn't much.
Do you remember any provincial projects that you participated in at the county level?
Not in particular, no.
How many members were there in the clubs that you were a part of?
About 20 in East Albion and Belmont. Between 20 and 30.
And how many were in the county at the time?
We were second smallest, so I've been thinking 150 maybe.
What was the relationship like between the government and junior farmers in Albion County?
The provincial government, through the Department of Agriculture, supported junior farmers and 4-H. And they supplied a provincial secretary and a lot of leadership, because the assistant ag rep seemed to be involved a lot with junior farmers meetings and 4-H and that sort of thing. And financial assistance too.
In your opinion, what is the importance of having a program like Junior Farmers?
It's important to teach young people to get involved, to be able to stand up and speak properly at a meeting, to be with other people, to work with other people. Plus you had a lot of fun.
What have you done with yourself since you left Junior Farmers?
I were quite involved in the church. I've been involved in other agricultural programs, organizations. Was able to participate in our local fire board, which was a cooperative thing between 4 municipalities, and I represented ours for 18 years. And I think without my junior farmers thing, maybe that wouldn't have happened, because you just learn to do these things, be involved.
If you could say something to a junior farmer member today, what would you tell them?
I would say get involved. We all have our interests, but the programs are so varied. I'm sure they can find something that they want to be involved in. Sports or dancing or singing or speaking. I'm not really familiar with all the programs they have today, but that would be just to be involved, and as you make lots of friends, see lots of people and learn lots, improve your confidence. That would be the main things.
You've brought a few items here of your time as public speaking. Can you hold up each item and describe what they are and how you acquired them?
In 1964, this is provincial competition. I was runner-up. It was the first place and then 2 runner-ups. The runner-ups got the silver platter plus a gold watch. A self-winding.
What was your speech that year?
What was it? Not sure about the first one. The second one was success. I remember it. And then there was an impromptu speech as well. You're prepared. It was probably about 7 minutes long, somewhere in there. And your impromptu, you had about 5 minutes for a 2.5 minute speech, or 10 minutes for a 5-minute speech. And you drew your topic immediately before you gave it. So you had no idea what that impromptu was to be. I remember one of them was about, it really said, central schools are beneficial. And I turned it around and I said, are central schools beneficial? But since I was closest to the topic, they let me through with that because the others had kind of changed theirs as well. And that was in 1964. In 1965, I managed to win the county public speaking trip again, and then went to Toronto for the Toronto conference, and the winner got a trophy like this, and plus the gold watch and $100. So it was quite a prize. I think again it was over 20 competed in that public speaking competition, and somehow managed to win it. So
What was your speeches?
that was success. That one I do remember.
And your impromptu question?
That was a central school, and it was supposed to be central schools are beneficial, but I changed it to our central schools beneficial because I didn't read it, and actually I was more prepared to speak on that than central schools are beneficial, because that's just when the schools were all amalgamating, county boards were coming in, and it was quite controversial at the time.
Any other provincial competition items you'd like to talk about?
I was never involved in any other competition, although we observed the singing, and there were always the sports competitions in the summer times. Square dancing, I participated locally in square dancing, but we never did get to the provincial level.
Any other stories about your time in Junior Farmers that you'd like to share with us?
Fun things. The Aylmer Fair food booth was always a lot of fun. Got to work together for 4 days, plus the preparation time. As I said before, I met my wife there, so that worked out well. I got to participate a little bit in Huron County from that, so that's where she's from. And got to know a lot of people up there too. These exchange trips on the weekends that we did, the 2 that I went on, learned a lot about more of the local things, Victoria and Grey County, and then their people came back here and we hosted them for a weekend trip, and that was quite enjoyable. Of course, the highlights were my UK trip, getting to Buckingham Palace, to a Commonwealth Tea Party, and then later I was the only one that did that because the home I stayed in asked me if I wanted to go to church, and I said if they were going I would go too, and so they said they had to get permission, and I was wondering what kind of a church is this, but it turned out it was the Royal Private Chapel on the grounds of Windsor Castle, and so everyone had to be okay to go there. And the morning that I was there, the Queen and Prince Philip and Prince Andrew and Edward were there, and I sat about 4 seats from them. So that was a real highlight. Didn't get to speak to them, but because it's their private part, and I was told if they want to talk to you, they will come to you rather than pestering them. So, but I got to see them drive away in their own car. And, it was quite exciting. And the Queen, like any other mum, took her hat off and just threw it over the front seat into the back seat with the boys. And it was just great to see that they weren't always sophisticated. So that was a real highlight. When I got back to London, when I met them, the rest of our group, they were in a restaurant having breakfast, and they said when I walked in, they knew I had a story to tell. They could tell by the looks of me, so that was my story. And I had wonderful families to stay with. Altogether, I stayed with 6 different families. So that was the real highlight of my junior farmer career.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you.